Hi everyone, it's James here. How you all doing? Welcome to another video. This is going to be a response to Alan, Static Traveller, and his tag, which has been around for a while now. It's the non-vinyl tag. So Alan has given us 10 questions and I will attempt to answer them. So number one, show a mini album replica format CD or one with unusual packaging. So I'll do the unusual packaging one first. This is an item I've been meaning to show on the VC for a long time. It is an incredible box set which I got back in the early noughties. It's called Goodbye Babylon. Here it is. It's a collection of very early sanctified music from the rural South in America. Gospel, I guess we're talking about. So it slides open like this, and you get a book which details all the CDs. I'll show you the CDs in a minute. You get this book and each song and artist has a little profile with a picture. So we're talking about old records, old 78s on Vocalion and various other labels. You've got people like Reverend Sister Mary Nelson doing a song called Judgment. There's all sorts of fantastic stuff in this. Blind Willie Johnson singing Lord I Just Can't Keep From Crying. You get the CDs, which just come in these very austere looking envelopes. But the most extraordinary thing about this box set is you get some genuine cotton, because some of the singers in this box set would have been cotton pickers, and this is not cotton wool. So I would say that's the most unusually boxed set of music that I've got in my collection. No idea if you can still get it, but it's called Goodbye Babylon. I was never really good at doing jigsaws. And I can show you a couple of good little CD replica album covers. So I picked out 3. I thought I'd show this one because this is from the Actuel series, which I know is popular in certain sections of the VC. So this is Actuel number 32, Sonny Murray, An Even Break, Never Give a Sucker. Fairly challenging album. Free jazz. Really nice though. It would be nice to get the set of these, but I don't think that's a rabbit hole I want to go down really. This is quite a cool one. This is Tangerine Dream and their album Zeit. That's quite nice. This comes from a box set, a Tangerine Dream box set. This is one of their early, very, very abstract works. It's really sinister almost. It's got a deep kind of interstellar, enigmatic kind of quality to it. And the third one I've got is a beautifully packaged album by the great American singer-songwriter Mickey Newbury. And the album, well, I'll show it to you. It's called Stories from the Silver Moon Cafe. I think it was the last album he made before he died. Really intense, emotional roller coaster of a record, but a very beautiful cover. And a music book you have returned to often. Well, there's a few books I go back to often. I thought I'd show this one because it's one of my ultimate comfort books. It's called The Drum Book by Jeff Nichols, and this I bought this book back in the day when I was getting very into drumming and being a drummer and learning. And this book essentially is the history of the modern drum kit. And it goes through how the drum kit was originally invented, and then they show photographs, so you get kind of early drum kits, the kind of drum sets that would have been used by people such as Chick Webb and Dave Tuff and all those kind of early swing band drummers. And then it moves through, as Chick Webb behind his drums there, he had this row of fantastic little percussion instruments. And then it goes through and you start to see these other famous drum kits. This is a Ludwig kit. I'm not sure if it's actually Ringo's, but it's one very similar to the one that Ringo would have played. This is Nick Mason's drum kit from the 1970s, with the great Japanese painting on the bass drums, the 2 bass drums. There's Keith Moon. And it explains all the specifications of all the various drum kits. Okay, here's Charlie's kit. So that's Charlie's actual drum kit that he used for years and years. And yeah, it just goes on like that. It traces the development of the modern drum kit, and it goes through, people like Bill Bruford. I'm sure there's a picture here somewhere of Bruford behind he's got this really amazing looking kind of Perspex kit. You can kind of see it on the cover there. Anyway, I used to pore over this book. Great fun. One of my treasured items. Okay, so show 3 releases linked by the same artist from 3 different decades. So I'm not going to do 3 decades for this. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 6 different decades just to illustrate what a longevity this guy has got. Let's start with the first album he appeared on, Led Zeppelin 1. There he is, Percy, Robert Plant, from the 1960s. We'll go with Physical Graffiti, the Led Zeppelin album, which came out in the mid-1970s. Was it 75? Yeah. Plenty in the 70s. Then we've got Plenty in the 80s with his album Now and Zen. First album by him that I ever got. Then we'll have Plant in the 90s with his rather fine Fate of Nations album, containing the great song 29 Palms. Then we'll have Plenty in the, this is 2005, so this is the noughties, and his rather fine album Mighty Rearranger. And then we'll have Plant in more recent times, this one 2017, so in the 10s, his latest album Carry Fire. And no doubt now we're into a new decade, there'll be more Robert Plant music coming down the track. Tireless he is, absolutely tireless. Box set you own with the most CDs is this one, I think. This is Murray Pariah Plays Mozart, a 12 CD box set, and it contains all Mozart's piano concertos. So they all come in exactly the same picture sleeve, so there's 12 of those. Yeah, Mozart, don't need to say too much about him. You either like him or you don't. I do actually. I do like Mozart. I used to play a lot of Mozart. When I was a musician years ago, I had piano lessons. I played Mozart a lot. Right, so let's have a look. A music magazine or magazine produced publication. Now John, Baggy Hi-Fi, showed an issue of this magazine and it made me want to go and look for my copy because I knew I got one edition of Shindig, and this is the one. So this is the one that came out back, I don't know when this would have been, back early noughties maybe, and it just had a feature cover on the move. Oh, it was the year 2000, so I thought I would pick it up. It's the only issue that I've ever bought of Shindig, but it's a goodie. I used to buy a lot of music magazines. I was really into Mojo, Uncut, Word Magazine, and I never buy them anymore. It's difficult to imagine now how kind of into them I would have been, you know, in the years before the vinyl community, in the years before, you know, back in the Stone Age time. If you wanted to know about music, you had to read music magazines. And most of the music knowledge that I picked up quite quickly in the 90s, you know, came from reading music mags. Okay, show an album you've not played in over 2 years. Right. I've not played this album for over 10 years, I don't think, and I couldn't tell you much about it. Interestingly, when I went to John's house, John Downing, 6-inch pianist, I noticed he had a vinyl copy of this record on his shelves, and I forgot to ask him about it. So this is the band Claw, and this came out in 2005, and I would have played it when I got it, but I haven't played it since. So we're now in the year 2021, and I reckon this CD's had a couple of plays. I don't remember anything about it. I think it was quite electronic, but I don't recall now how I came by it, why I bought it, and it's been on the shelf ever since. So I need to revisit that one. John, can you tell me anything about it? Maybe you know more than I do. Show a non... I think I've gone out of order with these, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Show a non-music CD or cassette. So I'm going to show this. This was something which, when I was a boy, I was really obsessed with. When I was a teenager, I was obsessed with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And this was in the days before we had home videos or anything like that. So you couldn't watch it. I'd seen the TV series, I'd read the book, and they brought out a cassette of Stephen Moore, the British actor Stephen Moore, who played Marvin in the original series. He was the voice of Marvin. And he basically just read the book into a microphone. So this was a twin cassette version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, read by Stephen Moore, and I must have listened to it so many times that I pretty much could actually memorise the whole thing. I used to sit in the back of the car on long trips, and I would just speak it, I would just talk it, I just knew the story off by heart. So, quite nice to still have that in the collection. Okay, a music-related DVD, this one, Anvil. Even if you're not a heavy metal fan, this movie demands to be watched. It is fantastic. So if you don't know, Anvil were a very influential heavy metal band who came up, I think, in the 1980s, and they influenced everybody. They influenced Metallica, and they just influenced all those bands that became absolutely massive. But for some reason, Anvil never made it. They stayed kind of cult status. And this documentary is the story of them staging an attempted comeback in more recent times. And it's such an emotional roller coaster of a movie. It really is, and it rewards repeat viewing as well, which these films don't often do. So it's sort of like a real-life version of Spinal Tap, but it's just absolutely compelling. Brilliant film. Heartily recommended. Right, show an album which was a disappointment. So I'm going to turn this one on its head, because this album was a disappointment when I first got it, but now I think I might even prefer it to the album that came before it, which caused it to be a disappointment. So it's Combat Rock by The Clash. Now, about 10 years ago, I got really obsessed with their album London Calling, and I listened to it non-stop for months. I just thought it was the most incredible album I'd ever heard in my life. And so I couldn't wait to hear Combat Rock. And when I got it, it was such a disappointment, because this album, it's nothing like London Calling. London Calling is this very riotous, big explosion. It's so many different music styles on it, you know. Whereas Combat Rock, it's kind of much more of a spectral, slow, dubby, atmospheric kind of record. Some of the songs are quite kind of drony and repetitive, and it seems to sort of meander around quite a lot. And it just totally threw me when I first heard it. I thought, God, what's this rubbish? But then in more recent times, I've started listening to it more often, on headphones in particular, and really, really getting into the vibe of this record. It's probably their most political album. You know, Joe Strummer was writing about Vietnam on it and various other highly charged political topics. And there's a kind of sweltering, humid feel to the album, which I just find totally compelling. And it just has some great songs on it. I mean, it's got Rock the Casbah on it, which is my favourite Clash song. But it's got Straight to Hell on it as well, which is probably the Clash's finest, moodiest song. It's got great Mick Jones guitar textures and just strange sounds. It's a really innovative record, I think, and quite possibly now I do prefer it to London Calling, which is amazing given that when I first heard it, like I said, it seemed to be a disappointment. So there we go. Right, so the final one. Show an album with a poor cover and or an album you would never play in front of your parents. Well, there's no particular album I would not play in front of my parents, apart from Frank Sinatra, who my dad can't stand. I would never play a Sinatra record for my dad because he hates him so much. It's almost like a visceral reaction. Like it kind of upsets him to hear Frank Sinatra's voice. I think there's a bit of a convoluted history there that I don't want to go down. So I'm going to show a record, a bad record cover, and it's an example of what makes album art nowadays so bad in comparison to albums from previous decades. Now the album is Sonic Boom by Kiss, which is one of their more recent works. And if you look at it, I think the cover it's meant to be trying to get people to think about is this one, Rock and Roll Over from 1975. But whereas this one is a fantastically designed album cover and totally iconic and brilliantly done, brilliantly realised, this one is terrible. This one looks like it's been knocked up in someone's lunch hour using a desktop publishing program. This one looks like it's been designed and painted by a really talented artist, and it's really instructive just to look at the difference between one and the other. So the great era of rock and roll, 1970s, album art, fantastic artwork, and then we're into the 2000s when nobody gives a shit. So that's my answer to that one. Right, I think I've answered all those questions. I hope I have. That seemed like 10, didn't it? The video's coming in at about 17 minutes, so I'll try and shave some off. So I hope you enjoyed that. Check out Alan's channel. I'll link him down below, and hopefully more people can jump on this thread. So take care, folks. See you soon. Bye-bye.